So the next thing for which we'll speak is database interaction. So what we're going to see in this lecture, well, we'll see how to integrate with the data. In fact, where is my data, how we can connect to SQL Server, and database connection workflow. So how to interact with the data. Now, in the same way as when you use database first or model first approach. So now we're going to see it with code first, and actually it's the same for database first or model first as well. So what we're doing, first we're making a new instance of our DB context. So var DB equals new form context. After that, we're creating a new category, which is our model. So var category equals new category, and here we're setting parameters. Parent equal null and name equals database course. After that, we're saying database.categories.add, and we're providing our category. After that, we're saying var post equals new post, and here we're setting parameters. Now, in that case, we have language which is in Cyrillic. Now, what I want to show you is that you can also have the things in Cyrillic and they're still working. So you can do, for example, title, content, they're strings, and you can have them again as Cyrillic, and that's how it will be added to database without any problem. So we're creating the new post and we're setting title, content, and type, which is enumeration. After that, we're saying post.category equals this category that we already created and added to database. After that, we're creating two tags. So these tags, they will have already the connection to the post. So you don't need to do something advanced to make this one-to-many, because now when you add them, you have it automatically by entity framework. And to the end, we say db database.posts.add, and here we're providing our post. So in this moment, these tags have been added to database as well. And if we want to have any changes applied, we need to say database.savechanges. So where is my data? By default, app.config file contains a link to the default connection factory that creates WaccoDB. So that's what we have. Basically, inside our app.config, or if you're developing your app on .NET Core, it will be app settings.json. But generally in both of them, doesn't matter if that's going to be in app.config or app settings.json, your settings are the same. So here we got settings for our connection factory. What is important here, server name by default is WaccoDB or /SQL Express and full class name. So by default, if you don't specify your own SQL server, you will use WaccoDB, which comes with Visual Studio. We can use Visual Studio Server Explorer to view database. Now, how to connect to some SQL server? Well, first you need to create context constructor that goes before constructor with appropriate connection name. And here how we can do it. So we are saying public class form context, which inherits DB context. Here I'm creating constructor and I'm saying that this will inherit base from that. Now, what is forum DB? Forum DB is basically a string which shows what is our connection string name. So this string here is actually connection string name. And what's connection string name? Well, connection string name is some definition, unique definition for our connection string. And now what's connection string? Well, connection string basically, here we're setting our credentials and database details. Basically, that's usually in app.config or app settings.json. So here, what actually you have in connection string? Well, you have initial catalog. This is to database name, so that's where it refers. you got, for example, user, which is for username. After that, for password, which is for password, and several other few properties as well. But generally, that's the connection string. So then add the connection string in app-config, and here how it looks like. So we got tag with connection strings, and we're saying add name connection string and name formDB and connection string, which is equal to data source equals dot. Data source is basically the server name. So because when you can run it on localhost, and on localhost it can be only dot on /SQL Express, then you can leave it like that. But of course, for production, it could be some mydatawarehouse.com on 4000 or anything like this. Here will be common. So here you got the server name. After that, you have initial catalog, which is specifying the name of database. You're saying that your integrate security is true and provider name is system.data.sql client. Here you can add as well user is equal to username and password is equal to your secret pass 123. So server address might be ./SQL Express, or you can just leave it with dot. Now database connection workflow. Basically, how does it work? Well, first you got connection string available. So if connection string let's say it's not available, it will build string SQL Server Express or create local DB. After that, what's happening? It will check if database exists. If it doesn't exist, it will create a new database. But if it exists, it will use it. And now after you create it, of course you use it. So basically that's how it looks like. So you got connection. If it's not available, create localhost or connect to .SQL server. If everything is fine, it will check if database exists. After that, create if it doesn't exist and use it, or directly use it if it can find it. Thank you very much for watching and happy coding.